2018 gold is probably going to be higher. In the next 2 weeks, it might be lower, but by the end of the next year, higher.
Why?
A geopolitical risk going on, probably a speeding up of commodity prices generally. I think that's something that is off of everybody's radar, but it is an important concern going on. You had a talk earlier on about what was going on in potash. I think that tells you what's happening in agriculture. I think commodities generally are going higher. So a year from now, gold will be higher.
All right, let's go to one of the big winners for the year. Copper, higher or lower next year?
By the end of the year, again higher, but over the course of the next week or two, demonstrably lower. You have gone up, I think, what now, 17 or 18 days in a row? That's not sustainable, but the strength in copper tells you that the global economy, the plow horse economy of the rest of the world is moving up. So a year from now, copper's higher. 2 weeks from now, it's lower.
How about oil?
Oil is interesting. I think in the short term, oil wants to go a little bit higher just because of the weather concerns and geopolitical risks, but because of what's going on as far as fracking and continue to finding new supplies of crude oil around the world, I think a year from now, crude oil could be demonstrably lower.
Here's the big one, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll ask it anyway. Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, lower in the next 2 minutes, lower in the next 2 weeks, lower in the next 2 months, lower in the next 2 years.
Why? Because when you came on and you called it tulip bulb mania and you called for it to implode, it didn't implode. It was just the opposite.
It didn't implode.
So what is this lower call based on?
The lower call is simply based that this really is a tulip bulb mania. I am a great bull on the technology behind it, but when the public is involved in the manner in which they are, when you get on an airplane and people recognize you and the first thing they ask you about is Bitcoin, when the fellow pumping gas asks you about Bitcoin, when the shoe clerks of the world ask you about Bitcoin, Bitcoin is egregiously overvalued.
Hey, Dennis, it's Carter. How are you? Foodstuffs.
Carter, I'm old and tired.
Yeah, well, I know. We're all feeling it here, end of the year. What do you think about the laggards? You know, the softs, the grains, the things like cocoa. I mean, do you like these for a catch-up relative to the industrial metals?
I think in the case of the grains, yes, very much so. Corn doesn't make new lows. Wheat doesn't make new lows. Soybeans are not making new lows and are being held up and rallied by strength in soybean meal. So if you made me buy one thing for the next year or two, I think the grains are probably the great place to take a look at. Softs, that's beyond my ken. I don't watch what goes on in sugar that closely, nor in cocoa. But I do think that the grain market looks to me to be extremely oversold. And again, harking back to what Carter was talking about potash, that tells you that demand for fertilizer is there, and that's a very good sign for the agricultural markets generally. So be a buyer of wheat if you have a chance.
All right. Dennis, great to see you. If we don't see you before, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody there.
Let's go back to the cryptocurrency craze, or we call cryptomania cash-in, and blockchain is what's making it possible. So again, going back to, you got a bunch of these little politicians telling us what to do. With blockchain technology, we could have a voting system. We could vote instantly on major issues rather than having a bunch of little clowns, arrogant little clowns with their big names and high offices telling us what to do. So you're talking about marijuana, let the people vote. You want to go over to Syria, let the people vote. You want to raise or lower interest rates, let the people vote. Let the people vote. Blockchain democracy. We could vote online instantly. Oh, and people say, well, the people are too stupid. Oh, yeah? Look at the jerks you got running the show. And with blockchain technology, nobody can hack into it. So that's us is blockchain democracy. We, the people, decide. Not a bunch of arrogant little low-life politicians who take bribes and payoffs that morons believe to be called campaign contributions.
Are governments that limit the contributions to campaigns going in the right direction?
Of course. Of course they are. This whole system's rigged. The more dough you got, the higher level you reach. Look at the billionaires that are around the world that are running governments. You just had an election with the ruling party in South Africa. Yeah, the guy's the richest guy now who just won, whether not good or bad. Take a trip over to the Czech Republic, another billionaire. Hey, who's running the government in the United States? A billionaire. Grow up, everybody. Open your eyes. The rich are running and ruining the world. They got all the dough. Again, I'm not making these numbers up. Look at Oxfam report. What do you got, 8 people that have more money than half the world's population combined? So of course, it's run by the rich.
Is that why they want big militaries around the world, protect the rich?
Well, of course it is. I mean, that's what they are. Anytime the people get out of line, the military hit the street.
Are there any competitors likely to challenge Amazon in 2018?
Sure, the Chinese are, and they're going to be, you're going to see more. The Chinese, the 20th century was the American century. The 21st century, we see it the way it's shaping up, is going to be the Chinese century. So look for a lot of competition coming out of China, and not only in that, but in the whole high tech world. One of our top trends for 2017 was Silicon Valley Rust Belt 2.0, in the sense that you're seeing more and more high tech artificial intelligence. China's about to take the lead in that whole field. So there's going to be a lot of challenges.
Should we keep our eye on China or join up with China?
Well, again, the deal is rigged, and then you can thank Bill Clinton and all the other low-life politicians that sold out the people. The companies went over there because of their cheap labor. And again, go back to 2001 when China joined the World Trade Organization, two weeks after 9/11, when nobody's watching. So all these low-life companies to use slave labor so they can make more money rather than paying the locals, what they did, the deal is this. Yeah, you can open up a place in China, but you can't. You have to go in partners with a Chinese company. And so now they got all our technology from the United States and Europe. Oh, and by the way, you can't own the whole company. You only can own 49% of it. Now China's taken all of that technology, and now they don't need the rest of the new tech. They got it all. And so, for example, you want to import a cars from the United States into China, you can import them, but you're going to pay 23% tax. But I'll tell you what, you can go in partners with one of our companies over here. You'll only own 49%. You make your cars over here, you can sell them over here. So they got all the technology. So no, it's a rigged game, and you're going to start seeing a lot of pushback coming from the Trump administration on that front.
Do you see any positive trends in education?
Yes, interactive education. We call it Interactive U, Interactive University. And it's one of the trends I actually identified and coined the term back in my book Trends 2000 back in 1996. Isn't it? The education system we have now is an industrial age model. And there's, again, go to India, and it's a lot of poor people there. But they're really exceeding in interactive education. Again, the model that we have now stinks. It doesn't stink? Well, I would say, hey, if it didn't stink, the United States wouldn't be the problems that we have. And we spend more money just about than any other country, and we don't even win, place, or show with other nations in educational standards. So interactive education is the 21st and century and beyond type of education. You could also start teaching people what they're good at doing, what their talents are, what their opportunities could be, rather than forcing them to have a general education. You got to learn this because we're a bunch of bureaucrats and we're going to tell you what you have to learn. Now pay attention and sit up straight and no talking. That's the arrogance, the stupidity of the political systems that have destroyed one nation after another. They just keep putting their bureaucratic garbage, spewing it out, and you can see the results. If the education system was worth anything, we would not be in the problems that we have. So interactive education, where you could access the finest, the brightest, and the best in the world, rather than the people that take a stupid test to pass a state test so they could become a teacher could teach you.
Do you feel that schools are obsolete, the old brick and mortar, you can learn better at home?
A lot of it, yes. Not all of it, but a good part of it. It's a different world. Just like people are working from home, they could learn from home. And virtual reality, when that becomes a whole nother level, you're going to be feeling like you're sitting in a classroom. Again, it's the new age. It's in the truest sense. But everybody's hanging on to the past. Here, I'm doing your show now, right? We're talking about the trends of 2018. Turn on any of the networks, pick up any of the newspapers, and here's what happened in 2017. No, we're too stupid to look ahead. We don't have any skills to. No universities teach trend forecasting. No, but you could get a degree in history. They're a bunch of losers, man.
Gerald, talking about North Korea again and having nukes, an example of what happens when you get rid of your atomic weapons is Ukraine. They signed a treaty with Russia. Look, if you don't invade Crimea, we'll get rid of our nukes. They got rid of their nukes, and guess what Russia did?
Russia didn't invade Crimea. Russia's been in Crimea longer than America's been a country. And they had a vote there that was monitored by international observers where over 96% of the people voted to leave Ukraine. And, by the way, remember Kosovo? Oh yeah, those votes are to leave are okay. As long as the United States and its killing partners like Canada and the others say so. So no, that's not true at all, the statement that you made. And again, the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Yanukovych in Ukraine. And if any other country did it, then the United States would declare war against it. So no, it's not. We don't see that at all.
Are we likely to see more separatist movements rising in the U.S. and Canada?
Yes, that's going to be part of blockchain technology as well. Just like people are going into cryptocurrencies, they've had enough of the old system.
What do you see ahead for Occupy Peace?
Well, the future of Occupy Peace is in the hands of the people. And if I know billionaires that won't give me a penny for peace. So it depends on whether or not people are going to support OccupyPeace.us. Because if we don't have peace, we're going to war.
And I guess with all these new computer devices listening to you all the time, it's not just Santa who knows when you're naughty and nice.
That's right. Yeah. The NSA and everybody else, they got to know our business because we're going to get them terrorists, I tell you.
Yes, they all get Siri and Google to talk to and ask what to do next.
Yeah.
Looking ahead to the brand new year, the stock market boom with the Trump tax cuts, how long could this bull market run for?
Well, now that the tax cuts are coming in, look at what brought the bull market to where it is now, and it was just cheap money. And you saw that it's merger and acquisition activity and stock buybacks that drove the market. In the United States, 90% of the market is owned by only 10% of the population. On average, they own about $350,000 worth of stock, that 90%. The rest of the 10% in the middle class that owns it is only about 15,000. So now let's go back to stock buybacks. The Trump tax plan is going to make the big corporations bigger and richer. And they're the ones that drove the market up with stock buybacks. So as long as they keep buying back stocks and not putting the money into capital improvements, which they haven't done before, the market will keep going up. And we expect a mini panic at some point, but we don't see a crash at this point on economic fundamentals alone. Because again, as long as you keep giving the gamblers money to gamble, they'll keep gambling. It's going to take an outside event, we believe.
What could that outside event be?
Well, it's already shaping up. It's the rhetoric that the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia keep ratcheting up, and that's going to be a war against Iran. They're accusing Iran. The United States calls them the greatest supporter of terrorism in the world, and of course the Saudis are in the United States have a good role in that. And with what's his name, Trump's recent declaration that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, that has fired up tensions over there. And so the tensions are getting higher, and we believe if a war breaks out between the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia against Iran, that's going to crash the markets worldwide, and oil prices will skyrocket. So that's where we really see this going. And the atrocities committed by the United States and its allies in helping Saudi Arabia and their allies destroy Yemen, the poorest nation in the Middle East, of which over 15,000 people have been killed, a million suffering from cholera, and the United Nations ranking it the worst humanitarian crisis in the world and making it worse. So every time the Houthis, who have been there for over 1,000 years, fight back against the Saudis, who invaded them in March of 2015, announcing the war, by the way, from the Washington, D.C., and under the Obama administration and Trump administration, an estimated, and this is according to reports, $400 billion worth of armaments sold to Saudi Arabia and its Arab allies of the killing. When the Houthis fight back, again, the Saudis is a government, a gang that was formed only in 1932. When they fight back, they're terrorists. So it's okay for Saudi Arabia, the United States, its allies, to destroy Yemen, but when they fight back, then they're terrorists. And now this whole thing about Iran supplying the Houthis with the missiles is getting a lot of press, particularly from Nikki Haley, the United States ambassador. And again, based on non-fact, and she's been discredited over and over again with the false information being provided. But America is more concerned about sexual harassment rather than the mass murder being committed.
If we do see a lot of violence and escalating wars, do you see gold and silver having a good year?
Yes, that's what's going to drive gold and silver prices up. That'll be the ultimate safe haven. And also along with it, by the way, is the new one, and that's the cryptocurrencies. That's part of it as well. People looking, cryptocurrencies are the new millennial generation's gold, and they're going into it big time. And so you'll see both of them rise, we believe.
With cryptocurrencies, will governments be able to track all transactions?
No, because of the blockchain technology. And that China stopped to try to stop. They closed down the Bitcoin exchanges back in September of 2016. And the trading in China was down to 5% when they did that. And now it's up to 20% of all the cryptocurrency actions coming out of China in Bitcoin. So they weren't able to stop it. They go onto these secure sites like Telegram and buy things. So as much as the government talks about stopping it, this is a big part of the crypto movement is really a populist movement in people not believing in the fiat currencies being produced by the government. And so they're going into cryptocurrencies where allegedly, for example, Bitcoin has a cap on it of 21 million coins. And you can print all the fiat currencies that you want, backed by nothing, and printed on nothing, like digital currencies. So this is to us just the beginning of a trend. And when it becomes a more simpler means of exchange, it's going to escalate. And the people are going to say, no country is going to tell me what cash I can use. I could use my own. I don't have to use theirs. And it's going to grow because the world is becoming a cashless society. When you go to China, you don't use cash or credit cards. You use your app. And now it's even facial recognition. So there's no coin of the realm to be attached to. So the new coin of the realm is going to be the ones from the digital world, we believe.
Do you think governments want their own cryptocurrencies, again, so they can track people?
Well, they want them, for instance, like currencies, like, yes, and one of them is going to be, it's coming out already, they're working on it, coming out of Venezuela. They're backing it by gold, by diamonds and oil, the petrocurrency. Russia's doing the same. And they're doing it also as a rebuttal against the United States sanctions on them, where it becomes more difficult to use their own currency because of the sanctions. So yes, we believe that there are going to be more countries doing it to get a piece of their own action. Japan's also actually done it already with their cryptocurrency.
Are cryptocurrencies then likely to replace paper money and coins in the future?
Yes, in many aspects. You know, trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. This is a new trend. Anybody that says they're an expert in it, you know, I don't want to hear it. They may know more than other people do. But this is brand new. It's only a couple of years old. And we expect, by the way, very high volatility. You know, there's going to be, 40, 50% swings, 70% swings. So, but again, once it's stabilized, it's a new world order. I mean, let's go back in history. Go back to the 1800s. Was there such a thing called electricity, automobiles, or airplanes? So when you look at the advancements of society, they keep going in new directions. And even the whole technological age, in terms of computer age, the internet revolution, when did it start? Really only 20 years ago, basically. Any of us all of us old enough to remember, back in 1992, 1994, you didn't get video on your computer. You had this static thing that was moving, it hardly worked. So the whole trend is brand new. And so we're going into a whole new age.
Was Bitcoin likely created by a person or a government?
I believe by a person or people. I don't believe by a government. But again, I don't know. It's only speculation.
Have you thought about creating your own crypto Celente?
Nah, not at all.
Going back to precious metals, is silver going to enjoy the same kind of good year you expect for gold?
Probably, yes. If gold has a real spike, and Jim, I've been saying this for 4 years now, and I haven't changed it. And remember, I'm one of the founding fathers of the gold bull run. It's in our Trends Journal back, in the early 2000s. I call the beginning of the gold bull run. So I don't take things as, this is what I want. This is what I see. So I call it as I see it. Gold has to break strongly over $1,400 an ounce. I've been saying this for 4 years, and it hasn't done it, for it to spike. When it does go over $1,400, $1,480, $1,460, $1,470, starts staying in that range, we see it taking kind of like a Bitcoin bounce, it going up past $2,000 an ounce. That's when silver will go in for the ride. But silver on its own isn't going. We don't see it making it the big move. We see gold having to pull it forward, as it's often done in the past.
Would it be more affordable for the average person to get into silver?
Again, we don't give investment advice, so it's up to people to make their own decision on that.
Are you bullish on the U.S. dollar in the new year?
Yes. Again, bullish only in the sense that interest rates are going to go up. And as interest rates go up, the dollar gets stronger. And what's their competition? I mean, look at the reserve currency. Everybody talks about the Chinese yuan. Was that 2% of the action worldwide? So the dollar's doing good because the other ones are doing so poorly. And go back to Europe, the euro. The euro also has a big chunk of the foreign exchange market as a reserve currency. But there is still a negative interest rate policy. So the dollar, we believe, is going to gain strength as the interest rates go up. And again, not because the economy is so strong. The stock market and the economy are two very different things. But it's because there's no competition.
They're going to hold the Vancouver summit about North Korea. Do you feel a diplomatic solution will be reached over the North Korean atomic weapons?
Not as long as you have sick people in charge of governments. And that's all we have, murderers and thieves, but nobody wants to call a spade a spade. How many wars does America and its allies have to start? How many more million people do they have to kill before they call the murderers people that started the murderers? Did I ever tell you, Jim, that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda? How come they're not bringing these people up on war crime charges for lying us into war? How come? Who knew what when? And the same thing with Obama with the Libyan war. The same thing with Obama in the Syrian war. And now the United States in the Yemen war, in Somalia. So no, you got a bunch of sick people, and nobody wants to call psychopaths, murderers, and sociopaths, sociopaths.
Should Obama have to give back that Peace Prize and the $1 million that came with it?
You mean the Nobel Piece of Crap Prize?
Well, in this case,
yes, that's all it is. It's a piece of crap. Look who they awarded it to this year. A group that's against nuclear proliferation. How about throwing it away? Who's going to give up their nuclear arms? The only one they want to give up nuclear arms is they want North Korea to give it up so they can slaughter them. And that's why they won't give them up, because they saw what they did to Gaddafi and they saw what they did to Hussein. Giving a peace prize to a group where you know that the United States, Israel, Russia, China, Pakistan, India, and all the others that have nuclear weapons are not going to give them up. That's a ridiculous waste of a peace prize. But that's all the Nobel Peace Prize is a piece of crap. They should have awarded it to me for launching OccupyPeace.us, the only peace plan in the world with a platform that's truly for peace. Bring home all of the troops, close all the bases overseas. Honor the founding fathers, no foreign entanglements. Oh, you want secure borders? Put the troops to secure our borders. Oh, and one other little thing. According to the Constitution, only Congress has the right to declare war, not the authorization to give it to El Presidente of los Estados Unidos. So let's force Congress to vote to go to war. Oh, we were talking about cryptocurrencies before. Now with blockchain technology, bam, we could vote online, and nobody could hack into it. Much better system than the BS system, crap system, jerk systems that they have now that we vote on, that all the local guys rig. So this is impregnable. So let us vote and tell Congress and senators whether or not we want to go to war. So that's OccupyPeace.us, because after all, these little boy congressmen and senators and girls, they can't fight their way out of a paper bag. You think little Paulie Ryan's going to go lead the charge? Or how about, is Lindsey Graham going to go? Is Trump's kids going to go fight? Let we the people decide. Yes, we the people, OccupyPeace.us, they ignore us because we have a true peace program that nobody wants to talk about. Hey, did you hear about the latest sexual harassment of Russell Simmons? No, I was listening to watching, that's all they talk about. They don't talk about peace, they talk about...
Gerald, do you think oil will hit $100 in the new year?
If the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia continue to take the world to war against Iran, it'll go way over $100. It'll crash economies and crash the equity markets. Other than that, we don't see it going up because of the supply and demand issue. And again, it's going up now because of that supply issue, and particularly the break over there in the 40s in the North Sea. So only temporary, but there's more supply than demand. And by 2020, the United States is going to be outproducing even Russia and Saudi Arabia in the amount of oil and natural gas we'll be pulling out of the ground. So it's only a temporary spike, but war will change it.
How does your globalnomic view look for 2018?
Well, again, we gave it the overview, and there are a lot of positives that could happen. But if we go to war, it will derail most of the good, positive elements.
Is real estate around the world likely to have a good year?
We think it's going to start moderating. You have, whether it's Czech Republic or the United States, Vancouver, a lot of places, the prices keep escalating. We think they'll moderate, but again, absent a war, they'll keep going up. Again, if that depends on interest rate rises. It depends how much the central banks raise interest rates. Because as long as the cheap money is available, people will be able to get loans, and so it's really tied to interest rates.
A booming U.S. economy versus rising interest rates, what's likely to happen to U.S. real estate?
Again, if interest rates go up too high, real estate goes down. But again, it's very important to look where real estate is going up. It's going up in select areas. It's not going up around the country. So in the hot areas where it's going up, it'll peak. But again, it depends on how many times they raise interest rates and the availability of the money flow. So if we have inverse interest rates where the short-term rates really start spiking, you're going to start seeing a slowdown.
As interest rates rise, are banks likely to make it easier or tougher to get a loan?
Oh, it'll be harder. There's no question about it. The banks are they want interest rates to go up because they make more money when interest rates are up. But again, because wages are so flat, and it's not only in the United States, around the world, people won't have the capacity to borrow more.
Are wages flat because of the fake inflation numbers we get. Remember, they got together about 20 years ago now to take fuel and housing prices out of the inflation index.
No, the wages are down because the world is controlled by plantation owners, like they like to call multinational corporations. And plantation owners really don't pay the slaves very much money. And you have in the United States, for example, 3 people, Gates, Buffett, and Bezos, that have more money than half the United States population combined. So it's just a concentration of wealth on the top.
Is there any hope for the average person under the current tax regime that's going to be coming in?
No, it's not. You look at all the data from every research group. It only enriches the rich. Goes back to the wages. It's become a neo-feudal society, and different laws, different regulations for the economic elite and the political nobility, and that's the way it's being run.
By the end of next year, is the deep state of the U.S. government likely to have more or less power?
More. The Trump has backtracked on virtually everything he said on his foreign policy levels about staying out with Syria. The United States is keeping 2,000 troops in Syria. What right does the United States have to be there? They're not invited. It's a sovereign nation. What right do we have to be there? What right to be in Somalia? There's an estimated 44,000 troops around the world by the United States. They won't tell us where they are. We can't tell you where they are because then them terrorists will know. Yeah, come on, save it, Junior. What am I, 6 years old? He's not telling us because you're murderers. And just to make this very clear, I mentioned Bezos, the owner of Amazon, and one of the things that he said, that he hires people that are right, that have proved in what they've done by their success. Let's add this up, all you military folks out there that love to salute the generals. You haven't had a victory since World War II. You haven't been right ever. And you're not going to be right now. Again, occupypeace.us. Put your money where your heart is, and people don't want to. No talk about peace and love, man. Those are gone days.
Do you think if they had the surveillance technology back in the 60s, they could have quashed the peace movement then?
The reason the peace movement went in the 60s is because they had the draft. I was there. I know what it was like. 1965 was my first year in college. Prime draft meet. That's why people are protesting. A bunch of cowards. People don't protest when their lives aren't affected. They don't care. It's become a military of people. A lot of people that can't get jobs come from, poorer parts of the country. So the elites don't care. I'm 15 minutes away from Woodstock, New York. All these people with their quiche-eating grin and their balsamic smiles. All these people BS about peace and love. You didn't get a penny from one of them when we launched Occupy Peace here, having Ralph Nader, Cindy Sheehan, Dr. Robert Thurman, Gary Null. They're a bunch of big mouths. All they do. Where were all these protesters that came out after Trump got elected? How come they're not protesting the war? I'll tell you why. They're cowards. That's why. So no, it has nothing to do with the government having surveillance. It has to do with people being cowards.
What's your outlook for base metals in 2018?
Well, it's like the copper, iron ore types of things are going to go up moderately. It depends on China. How China goes, so too does much of the base metal business, and that is that the China brings in 40-50% of the copper going on that they use, and Dr. Copper is the indicator. It's used in so many different functions and uses, from high tech to industrial age. So it depends on China. China's the one to watch, and they have a debt to GDP ratio now of over 300. So they have a big bubble building as well, but it's the Chinese government. They'll do anything they can to keep it going. So you just watch China, and that's how it'll go.
Do you expect China to see slowing growth in the new year?
Well, slowing growth to China, what are they talking about? 6% growth? In the United States, they brag if it's 2.5. So, yeah, it's going to slow. But then you have India, too, that's growing. So you're looking now at a population combined, 2.6 billion people. So if Asia keeps growing, Indonesia, China, India, even if they grow it at the 6% rate, that's still pretty strong, and it'll keep things going. Again, you're looking at strong growth in areas that, could you imagine if Canada, the United States, had 6% growth?
That sounds like something that happened back in the 60s.
Yeah, again, it's a different time. The business of America and Canada and North America is war. The business of China is business. And so they have an inside-out government in the sense that the government, like them or not, hate them, doesn't make a difference. They're the ones that decide where the economy's going. They tell business what to do. In the United States and Canada, it's an outside-in. Corporations tell the government what they're going to do. So it's fragmented because of the power coming from very broad range of multinationals. So they're the ones that are deciding the direction. So you have a scattered direction rather than the Chinese with a, as we call it, follow the Yellow Silk Road, their Belt and Road Initiative.
Do you have any thoughts about Canada's economy in the new year?
Yeah, more of the same. Again, it depends if there's a war and oil prices spike, then there's going to be it's going to be good for the Canadian economy. But again, you're facing an overvalued market in a lot of places, and again, wages aren't going up to meet the debt level that keeps growing. So it's in rocky territory, and how much are they raising interest rates? Really, hardly anything. So it's going to be, we see it more of the same, but again, it depends on what goes on the geopolitical front.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that pot will be legalized in Canada, but not on July 1st as first promised. Now he says sometime next summer. Does it sound like he's bailing out?
Yeah, well, who is he to say? Who put the power in the hands of these little boys and girls? Well, that's disgusting. Who is he? Who anointed him God?
Well, apparently...
So, of course it's going to stall. They're a bunch of losers. They all disgust me. Republicans, Democrats, you name the country, they're all a bunch of arrogant people that democracy is a stupid word that makes no sense at all because it's not really not carried out. The will of the people, forget it. It's the will of the, as I said, the neo-feudal society, the economic elite and the political nobility.
Do you think it's wrong for a government to continue to charge people for marijuana possession when they have promised to legalize it in the near future?
Well, again, the government, who are these people? Look at what they should, the war on drugs. How about going after the drug companies? Look at the opiate crisis. And they're breaking people's chops for getting high. I'm a big jazz fan. You listen to the old jazz songs. Everybody was getting high on pot. It was legal. Because the seed, I don't think Trudeau invented the seed. Who are these people?